Hi folks, so it's December and it's time to start getting back used to your training. So what I thought I'd do today is I thought I'd give you a quick 7 tips to help you back on your way. So one of the key things in December after a little bit of a layoff is to get back to consistency. Consistency is key. So try and commit to a certain amount of sessions that you know that you can get in every week without it causing too much stress. It might be twice a week, it might be 4 times a week, it might be 5 times a week, but try and make it an acceptable number that everybody is happy with. Okay, that means you, it means your family, getting back used to a regular training pattern. That's the first tip. Tip number 2, make sure that you prepare everything that you need for your training. So you haven't got an excuse at the last minute and your training doesn't happen. That might be a case of getting your hats, getting your gloves, getting all these things that you need, your inner tubes, your pumps, all that kind of stuff sorted in the midweek, so that on a weekend when it comes and you're going to be going out on the road, you aren't looking around for that missing glove. It's really handy to prepare for your training rad and not leave it all till last minute. Tip number 3. One of the things that I really try to do when I'm training on my own, even if it's only on a turbo trainer and nobody else is involved, is stick to a set time. So I'll say to myself, I'm going on the turbo trainer at 7 o'clock tonight, and I'll stick to it the same as if I was arranging to meet a friend, or the same as if I was going out on a club ride on a weekend where you might have to meet somebody at 10 o'clock or you missed a ride. I find it really useful when you've come in from a day at work to actually say to yourself, at that time I'm going on. It's very easy to leave it and leave it and leave it, and then before you know it, you either don't do the training or you jump on and you do a shorter session. And at this time of the year, that little bit of commitment to the times is really useful. Right, so tip number 4, plan next season's goals. It's really useful to get some objectives in the calendar, in the diary, so that you know what you're working towards. If you feel like you've got a race coming up, or you feel like you've got some session that you're going to be, or you feel like you've got some objective that you're going to be working towards, that helps you with your training on those grim days, because you don't want to be unfit on the day of the race. So it will help you get started with your training if you've planned out your race calendar. Sometimes it's handy to have a look at one of these type of books. That's the time trial book for last year. You might be able to find events now for next season actually online. So have a little look at what events are coming up. One of the things now, which is also useful as we're getting into December, is to get a little bit back used to your position on your race bike as well. So just begin to start introducing a little bit. So that's my 5th tip. So one of the things that I'm doing at the moment, if you have a little look behind, and I'm setting this for quite a lot of my riders, is you'll see that I've got a pair of aero bars on this bike. And so every now and again, when I'm doing my turbo sessions, I'll just sit down, go into that low position. It's not quite as low as it would be on my time trial bike, because it's actually my road bike setup, but it's getting me used to holding that low position and holding my arms a little bit closer together. So you might not be riding time trials, you might be riding other types of events, but moving around the bike and getting a little bit used to that low position is useful. Which brings me on to my tip number 6. Now, tip number 6, if you're riding a lot on the turbo trainer in winter, and people are increasingly using the turbo trainers over winter rides, one of the issues can be that you're not always working a lot of the muscles in the same way. So when you think about your lower back and your core muscles, if you're doing town centre criterium racing or particularly hilly sportive events, for example, you are not accelerating your body weight up to speed when you are riding on the turbo trainer in the same way as when you are on the road. So it can be worth introducing a few core stability muscle exercises. Doesn't have to be anything too long, anything too arduous, but 10 or 15 minutes, perhaps at the end of a turbo session when your muscles are already warm, just introducing a few things to help work on those muscles as well. Now, for my final tip, tip number 7, one of the things that I also found really useful is to make sure you make a record of the training that you're doing. If you look back at the end of the week and you see that you haven't done many sessions, hopefully it will give you a bit of a kick up the bum when it gets to Friday to make sure that you do something over the weekend. And you can and often, if you're looking back 2 or 3 weeks, it can help you to chart the training and chart the improvements. You want to be making a slow, gradual increase in your training load. So having that background and having that little bit to work back from can really help. Okay, that's my 7 tips for now, for December. But the key one for starters is try and keep consistency there, okay? We need to try and get back to doing those regular 4 or 5 sessions a week if you can. See you all next time.